Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building, Andre Iguodala. Welcome back, sir.
It's good to be back.
How are you, man? How's your spirit?
It's good.
All right.
Good.
Now, there was
It's
a
good.
rumor
It's
last
good.
time you came here. We were talking so much. Then after you left, they traded you.
They did.
Did we have anything to do with that trade? Anything you said up here, was that the reason they traded you at all? Because you gave up some secrets, some inside stuff. Was that the reason you were traded?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think it was any inside.
Okay.
It was any inside. No, it was all up.
Oh, okay.
And you back with the Warriors now?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be your last year. I keep hearing it's gonna be your swan song.
We'll see. We'll see. It depends on. I'm old, so it depends on how the body holds up.
Okay.
I feel good though. I feel good. I think we're gonna be pretty good.
I think y'all gonna be great. I keep saying the Warriors shouldn't be asleep with saying that sounds crazy.
It's true. It's true.
But I think y'all gonna be great. Y'all just gotta stay healthy.
Yeah. Well, Clay's be back. I saw Clay and he's in the gym. He's looking good. Young fella's good too.
Wiseman,
Wiseman's
yes.
good.
Wiseman, yes.
Yeah, he's good. He'll be gonna be real good.
And this is where
Are
you
y'all gonna
always
trade
wanted
for?
to end things, right?
Well, I had a lot of success there, so looking forward to getting back to the guys where I had my success with. Core's still there with Draymond, Steph, Clay, so they got and some good moves, some young guys and a couple veteran guys. We'll be all right.
Is Ben Simmons coming?
I have no idea.
That's the rumor. That's what we've been hearing.
I mean, but you know how it is. I played in Philly, so Ben just got to keep his head, focused on what he got to handle and everything else. He's too good of a basketball player. He's so good, everything will work out for him.
Now you did tell the New York Times this is your final season though, but you don't feel that way fully.
I didn't know I told him that.
Oh, I thought you told me this was your final season. Are you planning for this to be your final season?
You know what? I don't know. It's like year by year now. I think
Okay.
when you're at my age, I thought last year was my last year a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just a crazy travel, the testing, all that stuff, it wears on you. But, opportunity to go back and play, that's home now. So looking forward to it.
So when you look at Tom Brady and you see the fact that he's playing in his 40s, you'd be like, I still got some more time in these legs.
I just be thinking, you don't want to go home.
Oh my
You get that old. I mean, if you still got it, you should still play. But,
But he's still busting these young boys up, though.
Yo, he looked amazing last week, and I watched the opener. I don't watch too much football, but yeah, he looked good. He didn't look like he was 44.
I think he's a masochist. I think he likes pain, and until he finds something that can give him that type of pain on the regular, he's gonna stay there. Because I watch him when he's not involved with a play. He's still bumping into people. You're 44 years old.
It's interesting. I always wonder, like that training hurts. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, yo, how long you want to? I had a funny conversation with C.J. McCollum. He asked me, he said, you ever felt too rich for this?
No, that's a good question because you make a lot of money. So why do it now? You got your ring, you got the money. Why?
No, I think some guys just love the game. And, I think if you play at, a high IQ level, that's it's stimulating to the mind, to play at a high level, to kind of I'm playing against young kids and I laugh at them all the time. I'm like, there's no way I should be out here with you. But then that kind of wakes you up every morning, you got a purpose, you giving back to the young guys. I got some young fellas I'm trying to help become great. So, that locker room, most guys, they miss that. You ask guys what do you miss? And they're like, yo, just be in the locker room. It's a lot different, because when it stops, it stops.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of what I'm trying to do is help the young guys and help the NBA players in general realize, don't rely on just being an athlete. Don't just lean in on being an athlete. It's so much bigger than that. And I got a few things I'm doing on the tech side. It's just listen, there's so much power in what we do. And kind of bridging tech and sports, you look at TV deals, Amazon just did $1 billion deal just for one night a week of football, just one.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how much power that is in that. Because the players generate those eyeballs. And then, the TV bundle is supposed to have been done, broke up, but cable's still around because of sports. Imagine how much money that is.
What are you doing in tech?
So I do a lot of investing individually. I'm in 55 tech companies. If you go back, companies Zoom, I had some success in. It's a company called PagerDuty. You might not be familiar with, but it's a SaaS company, which is enterprise. And anytime your app breaks down, they're the ones who get it right back up to work, right back up to speed. Coinbase, Robinhood, It started with out of fear. You do a lot of things out of fear, and that's just trying to protect all your assets and everything you had. And my business partner Rudy Klein Thomas is like open up a E-Trade account. This was like 2008, and from there I started investing in tech stocks, and I did a lot of growth in the public markets. So then I was like, what's this world called the private markets? He goes out to Silicon Valley, starts doing some research. Then I end up playing for the Warriors. We start cold emailing VCs, and it's like, what is this private world? And it's like, you're investing in a company when it's valued at $9 million in a Series A, and now the company like an Airbnb or like Stripe is valued at $100 billion. But if you invested at $9 million, 50,000, multiply whatever that growth is, your 50,000 turns into 50 million. And then you learning how businesses grow, and then you learning like how is a guy able to buy a whole sports team by himself?
Right.
How was Steve Ballmer able to buy the Clippers by himself? Nobody else has to come in. And he started with Microsoft, and when he got into Microsoft, it was worth whatever it's worth. Now it's a $1 trillion market cap company.
We talk about teams, because you talk about the Warriors, and you can name the people that's on you with the Warriors, but talk about somebody like Rudy. Rudy's like the best kept secret for a lot of people.
Yeah. So Rudy's funny because he doesn't want anyone to know. And those are the people that I value the most. The people that don't do it for the fame. They don't do it to be in front of a magazine. Like, they're trying to build some, generational wealth. And we were talking yesterday with something that we're building, and the news will come out about that sometime soon. But we're building something, and basically we're turning athletes into VCs. And then we're starting to throw like these tech dinners. I hope I'm not giving out too much information.
Yeah, I might have to edit all this.
Yeah. So, but what we're doing, we're identifying athletes, and it's like, listen, you've amassed this great wealth, but like there's another layer to it, and it's not even about getting the money. It's about taking them. Like, I heard a yesterday analogy. You putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, and that's what we do as athletes. It's like we give back to our communities, we get back to our hometowns, and it's just like we just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. It's like it's only going to keep up for the next, as long as you playing. But when you're done playing, your budget, your money looking different, you're not able to give back as much. So, the only way to really fix these things is
change the infrastructure.
Right. But to change the infrastructure, you need the capital to do that. And that's where you talk about endowments. And you wonder why, it's Ivy League schools, like they don't have to give out, like scholarships. Like they can just say you can come on, you can go to school for free, or they can give out scholarships, I should say. But they don't have to give out athletic scholarships. It's like everything funds itself because they have $1 trillion, endowments. And it's like you look at HBCUs, and it's like they don't have the same type of infrastructure. And then when when it's the pandemic and you can't have sports, now the school can't be supported because they're relying on the revenue from the sports. So, we're probably the most visible group of wealth of black people on earth as professional athletes. So there's a way we can leverage that into real wealth, real dollars, and then it's not to have all that money, it's just to accumulate it just so we can give it back, start building the right infrastructure for our people.
And it's true because
Man, I'm glad you said that.
sometimes people will also see athletes and take advantage of the fact that they have this new wealth, and you'll do bad investments and lose your money. So you want to make sure you're doing the most educated, informed investments that you can. So that's great.
100%. And the funny thing is, like, we don't see the same type of investments that, the real wealthy see. And there was this African American. I won't say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. But he's one of he's the only black man on this one board. It's $1 trillion cap company, and somebody probably Google it and figure him out. But he gave me like some game. Like, listen, invest what they invested in. It's the investments they don't tell you about. When they tell you, okay, invest in this, invest in a barbershop, or invest in a record label. He was like, ask them what they invested in. That's what you invest in. I mean, I know this already, but just him giving me that game, and he was, giving me some game. Like, it's the reason why they're keeping it from you. So the things that they're investing in, that's what you look for. Find a way to get in. It's like identify the problem and then try to solve it. It's like, okay, why aren't we owners in these franchises? Why isn't there something within the collective bargaining that says that an athlete will be able to have a piece of the pie on the ownership side, not just revenue share. So, we just starting to think different. We're starting to spread the information. We're not keeping it to ourselves, and I think that's really powerful.
You think players ever come together, create their own league?
Obviously,
the majority players are minorities, and
right.
majority owners are not.
Right. But you talk about the infrastructure, so how much revenue is built up every year in the NBA. It was projected at before the pandemic, we were trending to like 7-8 billion. That's 1 year of basketball-related income. So it's like, all right, we got to be able to generate that out the gate. So we know you need 2 or 3 years runway. So how much money do you have to raise? You know what I mean? You're talking about raising $20 billion. So I think it's a collective effort with the players and they call it the governorship. They don't like saying owner anymore. So I think it's being strategic. You weigh your options. It's like, do you take equity or do you take the transaction when you're doing a deal with a company? There are benefits to both sides. If you take the equity side, it may not pan out. You might lose everything, or it might be more attractive to take the transaction. Give me $1 million to put my face or promote your product. Or do you say, I see this company being around for 40 years, being $1 billion company, a unicorn. I take the equity, the sweat equity, and work with them, help build them up, and then I own 1% of the company, and then it's worth billions of dollars. You got 1% of that.
That's right. I'm glad you said what you said about the schools, because I think I read a stat the other day. I think Harvard at one time had a $40.9 billion endowment, but all the HBCUs combined was only like $3 billion something.
Correct.
All of them combined compared to this one school. So what are you doing to get more money into the HBCU?
I think we're starting it. You saw one person off the top of my head was Master P. And then, his son is a great ball player. And I remember reading a book, $40 Million Slaves, when I was like, my couple of years into the league, whenever that book came out. And I think it was William Roden was his name, I believe. And he was saying, imagine if the Fab Five went to a HBCU as opposed to going to Michigan. And think about how much money they generated. Think how much money Nike generated off these athletes, and they couldn't benefit from it at all, and then the NCAA's, they're pretty crafty, and they just passed a law that athletes can get paid, but no money came out of the NCAA's pocket. It's like the wild, wild west. So that's why, they start letting black athletes play in NCAA sports, because it was split up, in Kentucky, which is one of the strongest basketball schools historically, their coach, Rupp, he wasn't recruiting black players. Black players didn't play there, but we were too good, and they had to have us because they were realizing we can generate some money from them. It's kind of like the Negro Leagues and the MLB. Jackie Robinson, they let him in because it's like, all right, we need this talent because we can profit off of it. So, imagine players start going back to HBCUs, and then we start getting those TV deals, and then that's generating a lot of money. There's a lot of power and a lot of wealth as black athletes, and we just got to start thinking. Strategically start building together. You get 1 or 2 classes of the top players going to HBCUs. You got to showcase them because there's a lot of money in that, and you start building. But, that's sacrifice.
That's what I'm saying. What would be your pitch to those young athletes to pick a South Carolina State or a Howard over a Duke or a North Carolina? Like, what would you tell them?
I think just start thinking different. You know what I'm saying? You try not to say too much because,
Yeah, you don't know who's watching.
Exactly.
You don't know who's listening. I'm with you.
It's
really hard.
I'm with you because, kid look at TV and be like, those schools that you named, Duke and Kentucky, LSU, UCLA, those are on TV.
Yeah.
Hampton and Howard and FAMU, they're not. So for a kid, he wants the exposure so he can probably make it to the NBA or make it to the NFL or make it to wherever. That's the hard part.
I think now though, it doesn't really matter where you go as much anymore. Like it used to really matter, like where you went to school, your exposure. Can people see you? Can you develop with the best talent?
Anymore?
It doesn't matter as much as it used to. You got kids going overseas for a year. You got kids going to the G League. Overtime started a new league where they're paying high school kids, like starting as freshmen in high school. So there's different models. It's being disrupted. That's why we're talking about tech. Tech has disrupted kind of everything, and it started with, this is entertainment at the end of the day, and it disrupted entertainment. You see a lot of tech in Hollywood now. I think if you get, we've generated enough wealth as African American, and we got a lot of African American men and women who, that B mark is attainable now. Like it's not something that's far-fetched anymore. And, we can put a Power 5 conference together, or Power 5 schools of the HBCUs. That's, okay, you go to these 5 schools if you want to be good in sports, and you can kind of build up through that. And then you can do like revenue sharing with the other HBCUs to help them build up along the way as well. There's different models you can try to take. And like it's all about sacrificing, which is really hard. You can't just ask anybody to easily sacrifice because it's a lot that goes into it.
And I would think that now with athletes being able to get paid off their likeness, that might be more appealing too. Like you get some of these companies to design fly jerseys.
Right.
I would wear a Fly Howard jersey or something.
100%.
The dude's balling.
100%. And you got a lot of different people that are getting into the culture. And what happened with George Floyd, that whole situation kind of opened the doors up for us to really try to take advantage of the opportunity of something that's tragic. And you see people like Michael Rubin, who's building a crazy anything in sports and gear. He's going to be at the forefront of the sports and fanatics, right? Yeah. So he's going to and then he's going to expand that. They just did another crazy round of funding, and he's tapped in with some of the top musicians, Meek Mill, and you see Lil Uzi Vert and James Harden and Jay-Z at the 4th of July parties.
And they're doing the sports gambling.
Correct.
Situation.
Oh, I didn't even know that was out to the public, but I knew about that, and he just continued to build this thing. But that can trickle down to the HBCUs if we get the talent there, we get the kids together. That's all revenue sharing. That's all money that's being accumulated by us. We can take a piece of that, and it's just we can do strategic things because they're starting to tap in with the culture, and the culture. We've always been accepting of everybody taking our our cool factor and using that to uplift their brands.
Is that one of the reasons you're sticking around the NBA?
Yes, for sure. Now, I didn't want to say that, but that's a big part of it. It's I got some unfinished business to do with what I'm trying to do off the court, how I'm trying to, and I've been working with the union for the last 8-9 years, very closely. We've been making our strides. Michelle Robertson did an unbelievable job.
I love Michelle. We went to the same college.
Right. So we were the first, major sports leagues to hire a woman to lead our union, and she's been incredible. She started Think 450, which is for-profit arm, and not just accepting the NBA saying here's a check for your likeness. It's no, we want to take our likeness back, and then we're going to actually have a business arm, and we're going to grow that, and we're not relying on the NBA just to bring in all the income. We're going to start having our piece of the pie that we bring to the table as well. So it's just about thinking outside the box, learning from experience, and then just trying to figure out ways where we can have real ownership in this thing.
What are your thoughts on mandatory COVID vaccinations?
You know what? At the beginning, you don't know. So it's all about trying to figure out getting the right information. I think that's the hardest part. With so much information that's being put out there, the internet, anybody can just post anything. You got to figure out, what's real and what's not. And then all the aggregators, the people who are, they're at the core of where the information comes from, the Twitters and the Facebooks and, the Googles. You're trying to figure out how they can navigate and block what's fake and and keep pushing out what's real. So when you start seeing a lot of people die, people suffering, it's okay, this is something we really have to pay close attention to. So, for me, knowing some people who died from it, it was easier for me to accept getting the vaccine, but also having respect for those who have legitimate reasons why they wouldn't get it. I think it's just some folks who are misinformed, who don't know, and then they kind of spreading the information that's affecting people and we're losing lives.
Yeah, because in particular in sports, that's, we're watching more teams require that. So do you think that should be a requirement, say, if they told you guys you have to get vaccinated? Yeah,
well, we're having those discussions right now, and, it's that is more or less dollars and cents. You know what I mean? When you're talking about entertainment, that's really more, we're trying to protect the money. We're trying to protect the wealth. You know what I'm saying? Because if everybody doesn't get vaccinated and we have an issue with it spreading, then we can't play and it shuts everything down, then, then your livelihood's at stake. So it's a little different than actual, you losing your life. But, we're in this we understand the business side of it as well. But I know there are guys who have legitimate reasons why, they don't feel comfortable taking it. And, I respect those guys.
When you see an athlete like Ben Simmons, who they're saying might be traded to the Warriors, what do you tell him? For somebody who they made fun of the way he shoots, they made fun of the way, he passed the ball instead of shoot, and that has to get to his mental, that has to get to his psyche. So what do you tell a player like that? Yeah, well, I played in Philly, so, I understand, and Philly, New York is one of the hardest places to play. Yeah. And they're just passionate about, their sport. So,
I would tell him just, do what you love doing. And he obviously he's one of the best. He's still one of the best up and coming basketball
It's got
players.
to be in his mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Every time he about to shoot, it got to be.
But it's funny because he's so young. You know what I mean? Like, people forget, like, we're calling, like, 21 and 22-year-old kids bust. And it's like, kid, like, back in the day, you didn't even touch the floor until you were 25, 26. Like, how crazy is that? Like, this kid is, like, nowhere near the surface of his potential. So, like, he's got so much room of growth. And the crazy thing is, he's, like, top 2 player defensively in the league. Like, he's, like, top 2 best defensive player in the entire league. Like, that ain't something you just throw around lightly. So he'll be fine. He's a great player. He's one of the best passers in the league. He still causes a lot of problems for guys on the court. So I would tell him, man, just enjoy life. Like, I've been through that, and it can be tough. Like, there's real trauma that comes behind, like, everybody watching your every move. You going to work every day, and it's probably one of the most stressful times that you'll ever see. So, it's only going to help you build. If you get through this, it's going to help you become stronger on the other end.
Yes, I agree with you, but it's so easy to say that. But, man, mentally, when you get so much feedback about yourself in real time at 22 years old, like, we're having all these conversations about mental health and mental well-being. Right. I'm sure players had breakdowns back in the day. That's probably why they never did realize their full potential.
True story. And that's why, like, a lot of guys struggle when they lead a game. It's because of what they went through while they played it. You see a lot of trauma coming from dealing with the media or not being able to voice your opinion, And if you go back to tech, always go back to tech. Like, you got guys being able to, now you can have your own platform. Now you can have your own podcast. Now you can tweet. Now you can speak your mind now. Like, it's helping guys, but at the same time, it's like now you've made the problem worse because you're trying to answer to everybody, as opposed to back in the day, you only had to answer to 2 or 3 reporters. So the issue back then was they controlled the narrative. Now you can kind of control your own narrative. And, like, I've been through it. Like, I've had some tough times.
In Philly or just in general?
Period. Like everywhere I've been, like, I've had, like, in Philly, playing in Philly was tough, or, like, in Denver, there was whatever that was there. And then with the Warriors, we're one of the most visible teams in basketball history, and they watching your every move and the stress of that. And
what was your toughest time? Was it Warriors or was it Philly?
73-9.
Right, 73-9.
Game 7 NBA Finals. LeBron James blocks you from behind. You like, should I have dumped
Why
it?
you put that trauma on that man?
I'm just saying, you got to relive that over and over because you see it over and over. That's LeBron's biggest highlight.
Yeah. And then it's like you have to, you kind of like sometimes, like, as black men, like, I always tell, like, my best friend is Evan Turner, who played in the league, and
I saw him out there. I was like, why are you Evan Turner?
That's like my best friend.
Okay.
Like, you building real bonds. Like, I had really good veterans. Like, Aaron McKee was my guy, Philly guy, and he was like, listen, man, you got to bond with guys right now because you paying for all your guys going on vacation now. But when you 45, you're not paying for it.
Right.
6 guys go on vacation with you. You only going on vacation with people who can go on vacation with you.
Right.
So the guys you with now is the people you're going to be with when you 50, 60, 70. Like,
Correct.
They can relate to you and they can help you through your trauma. So, like, that's like my brother. Like, for real, I'm closest with him than anybody.
Dope.
But, I mean, he played in Philly, and he was one of the few players that won every single trophy in college. Like, he was the Wooden Player of the Year, the Naismith Player of the Year, Big Ten Player. Like, he got all these crazy trophies, and people was like, okay, if he's not like Michael Jordan, then he's, he didn't pan out. I was like, bro. And we had to remind each other. I'm like, bro, you one of the best players, like, ever. Do you realize that? And, like, I even talk to, like, my teammates now, like, like a Steph Curry. I was like, yo, have you ever sat back and thought, like, I'm the greatest at what I do, like, in human history? Like, I laugh with his dad. Like, his dad is my guy. And I'd be like, yo, your son is the best ever. He'd be like, I know. And I was like, it's better to say, like, I'd rather say my son's the best basketball player ever than myself. And I think as black men, we kind of have to uplift each other because all we do is take hits all day. We talking about Ben Simmons, like, all he do is taking shots. But if you look back, when it's all said and done, it was like he one of the best out of Australia, like, the whole country, like, ever. So that's a part of that process where we got to start, the young folks say, like, you got to give your flowers while we still alive. I think we got to get back to that because
but is it
we
difficult? When you look at the game has changed so much. He's 6'11" and
Right.
he's a point guard.
Right.
That's wild to me.
Exactly. But we ain't
It's only
saying
2
that.
more inches than Magic was. Magic 6'9".
That's a lot, though. But Magic was different. Like, Magic was he was the best point guard of all
He
time.
he revolutionized the
That's what I'm
position.
saying. So we got another guy that's, like, he's trending that way. Like, that's a lot to ask for somebody. All right, if you don't become good as Magic Johnson, you a failure. It's like, whoa, what? You know what I'm saying? So like that's a big part of like what I'm about right now is kind of uplifting my guys, but also letting them know like this ain't the all be all. Like you don't have to be, you don't have to be the greatest of all time. You're just supposed to be the best at what you're supposed to be, and then you accumulate that wealth, and then okay, what do you do with that wealth? Like I don't really care what your vanity or whatever you want to do, have fun with that. But at the same time, you got a duty like we gonna build our communities back up, and I found out like, the engineers, they're like one of the most sought after jobs right now. They don't know what you look like behind that screen, you know what I'm saying? But we've never had access to be engineers. Like there's never, we don't have the programs to, like I'm having a conversation with my son about Allbirds, which is a shoe company. They're about the IPO that I invested in some years back. And my son texted me during school like, hey, you invested in Allbirds, right? I'm like, yeah. He was like, yeah, one of the founders, his son, I'm standing next to, he's my classmate. He always wears shoes.
Wow.
Would we have ever had conversation with our parents about that?
Not.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, I'm like, oh shit, he gets it. Like my son, like I'm like, oh, you getting it now? Like I'm like, son, it's different. Like these ain't regular conversations
I get
a black kid has with his father. You know what I mean?
It's like even when you introduce your kids to certain people, certain people might come over to your house, you at dinner, and they're not impressed at all. And you like, do you know who?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's wild. Because I was like, yo, what do your parents, like find out what your friends' parents do. And he was like, I don't know why. I'm like, they know what your daddy do.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And it's so accessible for kids now with apps and being able to invest. Like you said, you do Robinhood.
Right.
I do this app called Public, but they have so many different apps that make it really easy, and it's affordable. So, and we were just talking about this. Actually, for kids, like gifting them some money to invest in the things that they like, and then they can get used to that and get comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's like an app called Step. Step is like an app for kids to have their own bank account, start learning how to save their money, start investing. Smart founder, CJ McDonald, like he came up with this app. I invested in it. He got a ton of investors, and it's like, yo, we got to get our kids on this because we got to start getting our kids to understand, like, all right, cool. Like I know I'm about black business, so I only wear I wear Curry brands and Jordans, like because black them owned by black.
Right.
That's all the shoes I wore last year, Curry brands and Jordans. It's like, why you wearing those? I'm like, owned by black men, but at the same time, it's like don't get caught up in certain things that you can take the same money, invest it, and then when you get to college, you start investing at 8 years old. You put in, I don't know, $10 a week.
Yeah.
By the time you get to college, how much does that accumulate to? You know what I'm saying? Your debt look a lot different, if you start at 8 versus when you trying to figure out how you're going to pay these loans off when you just get to college.
Yeah, they have this other app where if your kid has like milestones, like lost a tooth, and it goes out to your network and people can give money. I forget the name of it, but it's a really dope thing. So if there's like milestones in your child's life, instead of somebody having to buy a present, they can be like, oh, my goddaughter lost her tooth. Here's, $20 to put toward her account for her to be able to do whatever with.
100%. And they can do that with shares. You still got bonds. You can do that. And it's just like, that's just us having these conversations because we never had these conversations, and we can just start thinking a whole lot different than what they want us to think.
When you talk about the trauma that you experienced, and Evan and everyone, what do y'all do? Is it therapy? Is it counseling? Like, how do y'all ground yourselves? What do y'all do?
Yeah, I think you got to be around. Well, first and foremost, we got to start being around more people that are holding us accountable. You know what I'm saying? But the hard part about that is, being a professional athlete. One of the bad things that come with it is you got professional leeches. People that they linger around just waiting on you to be vulnerable, and then they attach themselves to you during your vulnerable moments, and those things can it can affect you for the rest of your life with one bad decision. So I think what we try to do is just reflect on the great times. Try to speak out to certain people to help us. It's becoming more normalized to have a psychologist. I found somebody that's been really good for me. The union, Michelle Roberts, we try to build these initiatives where every team has to have, or it's mandated, every team has to have a psychiatrist that's not affiliated to the team. That information can't be used against you come contract negotiations. It's just trying to make it normal for you to be able to, find somebody to talk to through all your issues, because there's so many things that come with being a professional athlete that no one has any ideas.
Do you guys use the psychiatrist? Is she used? Do you use her, or do you find your own, or do you use?
I used the person that the union found, because it's like every team has to find a third party psychiatrist, and it's like, all right, every team has a union rep. What we do is we identify 2 or 3 people in that area. Team talks to each person. We figure out, okay, this person is the best for us, and then it's up to you whether you want to use it. I did. I found somebody, or I helped find that guy. I used him a couple times, and I thought it was very helpful.
Stephen A. Smith was here the other day, and he was saying that, athletes go through so many different things. So he was like, a lot of times, like an athlete will find a weakness in a player and expose that weakness and get the player off their game. Does that still happen a lot? Like if a player is going through it with his wife or his girl or somebody that passed away, do you go through that weakness to make sure he has an off game? Do you see that a lot?
I don't see that as much. Like my era, it wasn't too much trash talking. Like the only guys that really talked trash was Paul Pierce and KG. Like they were just wild. But KG was the only guy that would try to find something and use it against it. But I don't think it works as much anymore.
So it's not that much trash talking in the league anymore?
I'm locked in, so I don't even hear something. Like Draymond been yelling at. He probably yelled at me many times, and I wasn't paying no attention to him. I think it all depends on like your outlook. Like if you locked in what you're supposed to be locked in on, you don't hear anything.
I got 2 more basketball questions for you. Max Kellerman said you should be the one to take the last shot.
Max is my guy. He good people.
Word. So that was just because y'all friends, or he really believes that?
I don't know. I didn't know him prior to that. I didn't know him.
You weren't shocked? Were you shocked when you heard that?
No, I mean, if you understand how the whole system works,
okay,
like you ain't surprised if you hear anything. I mean, I've had some success making important shots. Like I'm not known as a shooter, but like when I had to make a shot, I made the shot. So
clutch. Over Steph though? Over Steph? You take that shot over Steph?
I mean, like, if I'm the coach, I'm going to Steph. Like, that's common sense. I got that. I got common sense. So, yeah, I'm going with Steph just because his body of work and, like, do different. But, like, I understand, like, I've had great moments because Steph's so good. So, he getting all the attention. They left me open. I made an open shot, and then he just made the right play. So, but you got to understand how how different shows work, entertainment works. Like, the ESPN, Disney has a large TV deal with the NBA. They do our games, so there's a lot of coverage around basketball because they want to draw in viewers, they want to draw in attention. So you're going to get somebody saying something crazy. There's a discussion behind it. Now it lives on forever, and then now walking around in public, you got a bunch of white kids that repeat, I want Iguodala all the time. I mean, that's just a cool thing about it. But you break down, like, real basketball, it's like, nah, I wouldn't do that.
How does Steph practice that shot when y'all in practice? Because his shots, it's not a perfect arch. It's not a perfect, but it goes in. It seems like he just has a connection with the rim. How does he practice that?
I mean,
there'd be 5 people on him. It looked like he chuck it, and you'd be like, "There's no way." And then
he just built different. Like some dudes just got like God-given talent. Like if people who like waver on what they believe in, like when you see special stuff like that, it's like it's got to be something up there. Like that ain't regular. And but he works hard. Like, you realize the best players work really hard. Like, people think, like, oh, man, that's just crazy. Like, he just God-given. Like, he God-given, but he put that work in. Like, he made 100 threes in a row. Like,
yeah, I don't take nothing from Bron. Bron is one of the greatest of all time. But when you're talking about somebody who revolutionized the sport of basketball in the last decade, it's Steph Curry without a doubt.
Yeah, I think he changed the game. I think, one thing he brought to the game that people don't realize, like, you looked at it as soft if you were having too much fun playing basketball. Like, if you look at, like, Charles Barkley and them, Anthony Mason with the Knicks, Charles Oakley, like, it was like you beat somebody up, right? And it was like, it was a weakness if you were smiling on the court. Like, you had to be mean, this man macho thing. It was like, kind of Pat Riley style basketball. Like, it was, but when Steph Curry came through, he started laughing. He started, shimmying, and he shoot from half court. And then now you're seeing this trickle-down effect. You're seeing Trae Young. You're seeing, like, Dame Lillard. Like, you're seeing Luka Doncic. These dudes just shooting step-backs from half court, and everybody going crazy. And it's kind of like it's like you can have joy now. Like, you can laugh and you can play. Like, that's like a real, like, generational effect that comes from this one dude. And it's just, like, something special. Like I said, you got to give people their flowers while they here. Like, he revolutionized the game.
And, bro, they traveling, bro. They travel in the league. That Euro step is a travel.
100%.
Okay, that step back is a travel. I'm like, that's traveling.
The step back ain't a travel. It's just.
It's a what?
It depends. It depends on how you do it.
If you were in high school and you did that, they would have called.
It's a travel. Like sometimes guys travel, but a normal step back isn't a travel. But the way they do it now,
it's wild.
But I mean, it's all about scoring. It used to be, Michael Jordan in the finals, the score was like 92 to 90. That was a score. And now it's like 130, 140, coach yelling, play defense. And like, come on, man.
What
like,
is that?
They don't want us to play defense. Like, they want you to score.
Now, do you play back that blocking your head a lot? No, I'm just saying. I want,
crazy.
No, I just want to know how hard is it.
you got all that trouble.
How hard is it to get over something like that?
Nah,
Or
that
do
don't-
you ever?
It don't bother me.
Okay.
You know why it doesn't bother me? Like, to be honest, first of all, like, we take a lot away from Kyrie Irving. Like, Kyrie Irving is
He's busy.
one of the most different human beings I've ever seen play basketball. And what he did that entire series, it was like, yo, don't take away from what he did. And then he made that shot at the end of the game, which LeBron called up. Like, LeBron's the smartest basketball player ever. Like, I don't have no problem. When Isaiah Thomas broke down, like, LeBron James never had a Hall of Fame coach him, and he had so many different coaches throughout his career for him to have the success he had with all the expectations he had. Like, that's different. LeBron's smartest player I ever seen. Like, he'll remember like a whole 7-play sequence, what exactly happened. Like, it's amazing. But like, Kyrie Irving is, and I think LeBron helped him realize his potential, and he's been maximizing it. But yeah, like, if a guy like LeBron James blocked his shot, like, he do that all the time. Like, when it happened during the game, I'm like, that was incredible. Like, I said that. I'm like, damn, that shit was crazy. And it's just like, you just give him respect where respect is due. So,
And not to mention, that's God, right?
Yeah,
No,
100%.
seriously.
100%.
You up 3-1. They come back and win the series. Like, you can't even put it down onto that one play.
There's some external factors if y'all want some, if you want some.
What's the external
tea.
factors?
I mean, Draymond
was out.
didn't finish the series for some odd reason.
He played Game 7.
Yeah, but he missed
balled out in
game.
Game 7.
5 and 6, right?
He
5.
He missed
thrown out
Just
in
5.
Yeah, they sent him home.
No, was it 5?
I think he was thrown out in 5. He came back 6. Or he was thrown out 5. He missed
Thrown out
game
4.
suspended
No, he
6.
missed game 5.
He missed Game 5,
He missed
yeah.
game 5. But that was a home game. We going back home up 3-1. That changed the whole series right there.
So it was
But
rigged.
they did their thing. Like one thing I always say about
Was it rigged?
No, I don't think it was rigged.
I know,
I
it's
mean,
one.
if you got a guy, if like the best team should always win, or a team that's worthy of a championship should always win a championship. Like, yeah, they deserve that. Yeah,
I want to see you do Earn Your Leisure podcast, man. You ever heard of Earn Your Leisure podcast?
I haven't.
You should do Earn Your Leisure podcast.
All right.
Like they're a financial literacy podcast.
Gotcha. But I got a question for you. Like, why give your IP out?
What do you mean?
Like, why give, like, every time I do a podcast, like, it's like a really good podcast.
He owns the
Like,
network.
oh, you own the network?
Yeah, they own.
Smart man.
Yeah, Black Effect Podcast
So
Network.
you want me to give you my IP? You want me to give you my content? No, I got you though.
But they my partners, you know what I'm saying? I partner with them.
I'm with it. No,
They got their own brand.
I always tell like certain guys, I'm like, bro, you got a lot of great content, man. Don't just give it out. Like, don't just do like. Okay, I understand like doing a couple podcasts, but like, don't do 20 podcasts and they're all good. I'm like, you just had your own series. You just had your own. You had your own company
absolutely.
right there. So I'm being real strategic in terms of like what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to say I'm the.
Would you like to launch a podcast, Andre Iguodala?
I don't know.
Let's talk.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Word up.
No, I got some stuff. It's in the works already.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the works.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
but
so
I.
that's a yes. That was T.
Yeah. We're figuring it out. But like, be strategic in what you do. Like, you're very strategic in what you do. Like, I think all of y'all are. Like, that's where I think a lot of people gravitate towards y'all and what y'all doing, especially for the community. And then like, y'all do a really good job of like, y'all just don't call somebody and say, yo, come on air. Like, I don't think people really understand like the work that goes into what we do. Like, that kind of gets taken for granted because it's like, I got family members who really think like I just wake up at like 11 o'clock and then go to the gym, shoot some shots, lift some weights, and then go home and just have fun. I'm like, do you have any idea what I do? Like, I read a ton. Like, people ask me like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? I'm like, I have no idea what's going on in certain places because I'm just not paying attention to, because I'm just like focused on what I'm trying to get to. And it's like, I know you were traveling around crazy for your book tour, doing a show, then flying somewhere, then flying back. It's like, people don't see the grind. And it's like, I think we have to start normalizing like, okay, working really hard that's how you succeed.
Absolutely.
People think we do a show from 6 to 10 and then the day's
Then it's
over.
over.
That's
I
what
wish.
I'm saying.
Never.
Like we really got to start teaching our people what work is. But we've been institutionalized to move how we move, which is just as laid back and and then now we got to hold ourselves accountable, not to accept the situation we've been handed.
But no, that's why I said I would love to see you on that podcast, because it's like you're here, you're Andre Iguodala, and you dispense a different level of information that people may not even think you'd be giving out, and they'll listen to you more about tech and everything else than they would the actual tech guy. I could put Rudy here right now. Rudy will get 20,000 views on YouTube.
Right.
You know what
100%,
I'm saying?
100%.
So, but you will get 500,000, 1 million. You know, so it's different. It's just
But
packaging.
I gotta say something crazy to draw in the viewers.
Hmm?
I have to say, it's like you have to say something crazy to get that
Maybe,
viewers.
maybe not.
Definitely
I don't
the
know.
last
Maybe,
time.
maybe
Right,
not.
exactly, and it's like if I'm like y'all saying that, you know, I think it was you heard something different. It was like, you know, they took one line. It was like, did you hear the sentence before and the sentence after?
Yeah.
'Cause I was like, you know, the Warriors is probably it's the worst. It's the best organization I've ever been in terms of, you know, making sure players get this, get that, get this, get that, and then I was just like, you know, a situation with injury that every player has, and then there was like, you know, which side are we on, because it can go either way with, you know, is it this or is it that? And you
The
know,
headline is Andre Iguodala says Warriors force players to play when they're injured.
Right.
exactly. Because the decision was up to me, and I made the decision to go out there. So it was, if anything happens, it's on me. And I was trying to make that come across like KD was ready to go, and they asked him like, "Are you sure? We want to make sure you're safe." But nobody heard that, and then
that wasn't
it's
the
just like-
headline.
That
at
was
all.
definitely was that.
But I get upset sometimes because they don't do that to us. Like, you know, I'm really glad to see Antonio Brown back and doing well. And then I won't go further into, you know, that whole, it's some other stuff that they won't mention. Other thing about other guys who have some crazy stuff going on, they just sweep it under the rug, and you know that upsets me sometimes.
Well, we appreciate you for
But
joining
they got
us,
the
brother.
complexion for the protection.
There you go.
It's Andre Iguodala. It's the Breakfast Club. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate
on.
it.